In this video, we're reviewing Joker, Folie, Deux, and making you smile with a bright and sour cocktail called a happy face. Today on the Martini Shot. Hello and welcome to the Martini Shot, home of movie reviews and movie-themed cocktails. Before we get into the review, let's whip ourselves up a drink. So this will be a bright, sour cocktail with just a little hint of chocolate to it. Basically kind of a riff on a rum sour. All right, so in your shaker, you're gonna go ahead and start with 3/4 ounce of fresh lemon juice, 3/4 ounces of orange juice. And for our alcoholic ingredients, you're gonna be adding 1/2 ounce of creme de cacao, 2 ounces of rum, and a little dash of blue curacao just for color. And then finally, because it is a sour cocktail, we're going to be adding 1 egg white. Once everything's in your shaker, first you are going to dry shake it, that means without ice, for about 20 seconds. This is going to allow the egg white to properly emulsify, give us that nice creamy texture we're looking for. And once you're done with that, go ahead and throw ice in that shaker and shake to chill. Once you're done, go ahead and strain that into a coupe glass. And then to top it off, we're gonna be using this fun little smile stencil that you can make yourself and some strawberry powder. I'm using Nesquik brand to give it a nice little dusting on top in the shape of Joker's iconic smile. And there you go, now you have a happy face. Sour cocktails are some of my favorite cocktails. I love getting to play around with the base and seeing if we can make something unique. This is going to taste very familiar, but it's also going to have its own uniqueness to it as well. You get the brightness obviously from the tart lemon juice and the orange juice, but then that chocolate from the creme de cacao really kind of comes in and pairs really well alongside those bright fruit flavors. And that's kind of why I wanted to go with rum as the base spirit as well, because I feel like a good rum can really bring out those desserty notes of the chocolate. And this particular rum plantation already kind of has like a bit of a caramel note to it, a bit of a vanilla note to it that I think just really works in here. And then that strawberry dusting on top adds a nice little sweet flavor once you finally get to it. But before you get to it, you're also smelling it while you drink. And so that combined with the smell of the chocolate and the juices is very, very nice. Now that we have our drink, let's get right into the review. Since starting this channel all the way back in 2020, I have had a lot of people ask me my opinion on Joker, the 2019 box office success that actually had people worried it was going to radicalize incels across the country. What a silly time to be alive. My opinion on the film has changed bit by bit over the years, and right now my feelings are fairly mixed. I do love Joaquin Phoenix and think he does an admirable job, and I won't lie, I think director Todd Phillips definitely knows how to design some compelling shots. Yet, I never really connected with the central ideas of the film, finding most of the reflections on mental health, classism, and accountability to be fairly surface level. It's doing leagues more than what most superhero films were doing at the time, and I respect it for that, but I also didn't find myself judging it as a comic book movie because other than it loosely being connected to the Batman mythos, it's purposefully not trying to be a comic book movie. The Scorsese inspirations are clear, mostly Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy, and while I can't fault Phillips for drawing from both of their plots and themes, I just don't think he did anything all that interesting or different with them. I totally get why people love the film and I don't fault them for enjoying it. It just didn't do much for me. With that said, I was very interested to see that the sequel was willing to take some big swings. Making the film a musical was certainly a choice, and one I was highly anticipating to see, one, how it would play out, and two, how audiences would accept it. So let's take a look at that box office, and oh no. Conceptually, I love what Joker Folie Deux is trying to do. Not only is it a musical, but also a courtroom drama, further distancing itself from the comic book movie formula we've seen again and again. Not only that, but it's even challenging the previous film itself, putting its own themes and messages on trial in a way I think a lot of people genuinely need to hear. It expands the complexities of the previous film's ideas that elevates them beyond the surface level feelings I had. So in theory, I like what the film was going for. The execution is a bit of a different story. For a musical, I found it to be rather inconsistent and sometimes bland, with a lot of the musical moments falling a bit flat on emotion and presentation for me. As a courtroom drama, I found it to be missing the compelling tongue that turns other films of its nature into bouts of linguistic warfare. By the end, these elements didn't do a ton for me to make me connect with the characters like the film was probably hoping. Credit where credit is due, I do think the sequel feels wholly more original than its predecessor. but that could be a good or bad thing depending on who you are. 2 years after killing 6 people, Arthur Fleck is about to stand trial for his crimes as the enigmatic Joker. While incarcerated, he meets an obsessive patient named Lee, who quickly forms a romantic connection with him. With his lawyer urging him to reject the Joker iconography and Lee encouraging him to embrace it, Arthur must stand trial and try to defend himself with the threat of execution looming over his head. Phoenix is once again transformative and hard to ignore as the titular clown, bringing much of the same tortured yet boisterous personality from the previous film. The Joker side of Arthur certainly gets more time to shine this go-around, which does give us the one thing I feel every Joker needs. He's got to be a little funny. So when Arthur is doing his best Foghorn Leghorn impression, I did find him to be magnetic and confident, with the confidence being what makes these scenes pretty funny, even if the things he's saying aren't really. As Arthur, I still kind of feel the same about his characterization as I did in the first film. He's kind of this caricature of suffering that's so maxed out that he never really feels like a real person. I can empathize with him because of the way he gets treated, but I just don't really end up seeing a human beneath it all, more so a conduit to represent these ideas. Arthur is now joined by a zealous admirer in Lee, portrayed by Lady Gaga. Gaga has really surprised me with her roles over the years, from A Star is Born to House of Gucci. She does quite an admirable job here, playing the devil on Arthur's shoulder that is infatuated by what the Joker represents. That being said, I did find the character to feel a tad underdeveloped, mostly because she felt less like a character to explore and rather a tool to guide Arthur along on his journey. I thought she had way more potential as a character, with her being a compulsive liar who idealizes the things she wants, even if she doesn't accept them fully for what they are. I was kind of hoping she would have a bit more screen time to match Phoenix, and while we didn't get that, she still manages to be a scene stealer. I don't think her take on the iconic character will have the same staying power as Phoenix's did, but I do applaud her for trying something different, even if it still makes me wonder what the whole point of these films being based off the comic book characters is. When the musical sequences got underway, I couldn't help but realize how bleak and cold those moments were going to be. Contrary to what some may think, musicals aren't always these bright, happy-go-lucky tales told through music. Often, music and singing is used to poetically express what characters are feeling in a way that simply talking can't do justice. The film's musical sequences don't always tend to be loud and grandiose, often being rather restrained and grounded. It almost feels like it wanted to be the antithesis of what we know as musicals, much like how the first film tried to be the antithesis of the comic book movie. But I mostly just found a lot of these sequences to be rather dull, lacking the heartstring tug or the impressively designed structuring I look for in a musical. Every now and then we get something great, like a sequence involving Joker singing in the courtroom while killing those who are trying him. But more often than not, I found these scenes to be flat and uninteresting, despite me liking quite a few of the song choices. Who knew there were so many songs about clowns? I mentioned earlier that I thought this film was a dressing down of the first film's themes, or at least how many people interpreted it. To me, the first film felt like it was trying to be a rallying cry to bring mental health and the society that bludgeons it into the forefront, but never really got past anything deeper than be nicer to each other. While the first film didn't exactly vindicate Arthur of his crimes, it didn't really place accountability on him either, framing him as a product of a failed system. But in Folie, Deux, there is way more of an attempt to really dissect personal accountability and the cult of personality that is bred from Arthur's actions. There is a genuinely great scene where Arthur interrogates a former friend of his on the stand who also has lived a very rough, neglectful life. He watched Arthur turn into a monster before his very eyes, scarring him deeply. Arthur was wronged, but he had no right to do what he did, and his friend is proof that you can only blame society so much. You are still the one in control of your actions at the end of the day. This is fantastic and actually makes a difference in how Arthur goes on to see himself. Narratively, this film had way more thought-provoking ideas to indulge in, and while they don't come together in the most satisfying of products for me, I still respect it for making the effort. Joker Folie Deux looks to test many people, fans of the first film, comic book fans, musical fans, but unfortunately I didn't find the test to be as inward or as compelling as I would have hoped. There are props to give Todd Phillips for taking the film in a different, potentially alienating direction, but I'd be lying if I said it had me floored throughout. At times feeling frictionless and uncompellingly drab, this sequel denies viewers these same straightforward pleasures that probably made the first such a hit. Even with solid lead performances, a very well colored and composed visual style, and a solid soundtrack, this didn't really give me the emotional resonance I would have liked. The first Joker will stay in my mind for better or for worse, but even with its small improvements, Folie Deux feels like it won't be leaving the same lasting impression. It certainly takes more risks than anything Marvel has done in years, but where those are straightforward, simple films that more or less succeed at achieving that, this tries to be something deeper that I don't really think it accomplishes. For my rating, I'm giving this film 2.5 gavels out of 5. It's closer to a 3 than a 2, but we'll see how it continues to sit with me. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Martini Shot. If you saw Joker Folie Deux, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. And if you like what you saw here and would like to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me across all social media channels. Those links are down in the description below. And if you enjoy movie reviews and movie-themed cocktails, be sure to check out my website, martinishot.blog. Until next time, thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Live deliciously, but please remember to drink responsibly.